Hey everyone, in today's episode of AS InfoShare, we will be talking to Michael Mallinson. In our interview, Michael gave us so much information about axial spondyloarthritis that we decided to split it into a few podcast episodes on different topics. Stay tuned. Information provided in this podcast should not be considered medical advice. We encourage all listeners to consult their healthcare professionals for medical concerns. Thank you. Welcome to another episode of AS InfoShare. Today we are talking to Michael Mallinson, a patient advocate for those dealing with axial spondyloarthritis, formerly known as Ankylosing Spondylitis, and we will discuss that name change with Michael as well. Before we get started, please take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also subscribe to our podcast on listening platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Amazon Music. Also, please connect with us on social media, including Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and Reddit. And please visit our website, asinfoshare.com, for more content, updates, and product recommendations for those dealing with the condition. If you enjoy the show and want to support us, consider contributing through Buy Me a Coffee. You can find a link within the description or comments, as well as on our website, asinfoshare.com. And as always, feel free to leave us a comment. We would love to hear from you. Now, let's get into the episode. A big holiday is coming up for us in the AS community. It's called World AS Day, sometimes called World Ankylosing Spondylitis Day or World Axial Spondyloarthritis Day, as it should be called these days to represent the wider scope of the disease. It is usually observed on the first Saturday of May, but if the first Saturday falls on May 1st, it moves to the second Saturday. So for 2026, when this podcast is being recorded, it will be on May 2nd, so put that date in your calendar. The date is followed by Walk Your A.S. off day on May 3rd, 2026. So for those of us in the AS community, this is our holiday. This is kind of like our New Year's or whatever big holiday you may celebrate. We should all take part in it because it raises awareness, it raises funds, and it helps all of us who are dealing with this disease to come together to support one another. So make a big deal out of it. To tell us more about it, we spoke to our special guest, Michael Mallinson, a very knowledgeable patient advocate who you may have come across in some of the online groups. Take a listen. Michael, tell us a little about yourself.
I'm a retired banker. I have no medical training whatsoever, but I do consider myself to be a pretty well-informed patient, just because of my background in dealing with my own AxSpA and in being part of the AxSpA community for so many years.
Do you work with a nonprofit group?
Well, I'm fully retired now, but I did co-found the Canadian Spondyloarthritis Society, and then I ran it on a volunteer basis for the first 11 years until 2017. Then I retired from that and hired, a paid executive director to take over. But I also volunteered for the Axial Spondyloarthritis International Federation for quite a few years. Again, it was totally voluntary. I was the secretary for 5 years and then just a sort of volunteer dog's body for quite a few years after that.
Wow.
But the important part is that in my roles as president of the Canadian Spondyloarthritis Association and as a volunteer with ASIF is that I attended a lot of rheumatology conferences. So I've been to ACR, I've been to EULAR, I've been to BritSPA, I've even been to conferences in the Far East as well, but that was virtually, but I have attended them. And I've been to a ton of webinars, anything that the SAA or the CSA puts on there. I usually tune in just to see if there's anything new.
How long have you been diagnosed?
I was diagnosed in 1991, which was 10 years after onset of symptoms. So that's really why I became a patient advocate. I didn't want anybody else to go through what I'd been through for 10 horrible years. I don't know what your own case is, but for me it was 10 years of hell before diagnosis.
Yeah, I was diagnosed in 2022, but I've always had back pain. Ironically, I don't have back pain now, but I have all the other systems, very stiff. lots of stiffness and lots of fatigue. So, once I got diagnosed, I wanted to learn as much as I could about the disease. And they say the best way to learn is to teach. So I started doing what I could to learn, and then I created a YouTube channel and a podcast and all these other things. And whatever I learn about, I put it into a nicely packaged video or something, and I try to put it out there. All right, so why don't we start off, if you can, tell me a little bit about World Axial Spondyloarthritis Day, and I believe you also do some stuff with Walk Your A.S. off.
Yes, I'd be happy to talk about World Axial Spondyloarthritis Day. And just as a bit of history on that, ASIF, the Axial Spondyloarthritis International Federation, first came up with the idea of World AS Day back in the late 90s, I think it was, and they were pushing to have it recognized by the World Health Organization as a specific day for people with spondylitis. And I think you understand that spondylitis is an old term for spondyloarthritis. Spondylitis describes a group of diseases in the same way that spondyloarthritis does. Anyway, they wanted the World Health Organization to recognize a World Spondylitis Day, and that never really came to pass, I think because the WHO gets inundated with requests from various disease groups, etc. But anyway, the idea was born, and so World Spondylitis Day was started. Didn't go too far in the first few years, and then somehow mysteriously in the early noughts it became World AS Day, as in World Ankylosing Spondylitis Day. It's now evolved into World Axial Spondyloarthritis Day. They are keeping the logo World AS Day, but when they refer to it, they're going to call it World Axial Spondyloarthritis Day from now on. And they are the Axial Spondyloarthritis International Federation, or ASIF for short. So what's it all about? It's really all about awareness. To create awareness. You were diagnosed fairly recently, but certainly back in the day when I was diagnosed, back in 1991, nobody had heard of axial spondyloarthritis or ankylosing spondylitis. And it kind of amazes me because it's as common as RA, rheumatoid arthritis, and yet nobody seems to have really heard about this disease. It might have been because it used to be considered a men's disease for a fairly valid reason, but that's by the by. The World AS Day is on the first Saturday of May every year, after May the 1st, and it's all about creating awareness and providing education and support to patients as well. So there are a lot of resources out there that ASIF puts forward on its website, how you can become involved, etc. But I think it's just great for us as a global community to come together around that one day and spread the word. It's an opportunity to let people know that you have axial spondyloarthritis and to educate them as to what it is, and also to point out and say, hey, I have it, I'm in the US, he has it, he's in Canada, she has it, she's in the UK, and she has it, and she's in South Africa. So it's a global phenomena, and that's what we want to do, create awareness of the disease, so somewhere it might trigger somebody saying, oh, I've had chronic back pain, maybe it's axial spondyloarthritis. Maybe it's not mechanical, maybe it's not an injury after all. So as I say, there's a lot of resources that people can download from the ASIF website, which is asif.info, and you can spread the word and become involved in World AS Day in quite a number of ways. Now, Walk Your AS Off. I love this. I was the #1 supporter of Walk Your A.S. Off when it first started back in 2011, I think it was. I thought the idea was brilliant. Walk your A.S. off, walk your ass off. It's just absolutely brilliant because we all know AS is a pain in the ass, right? And we all know that you have to exercise. It's mandatory. It is a treatment option that is not under discussion. You have to exercise. So Walk Your A.S. Off was started by a lady called Jennifer Fisher, and she was brilliant in describing why she started it. It was, to get people up and moving, to walk their AS off. And she was very motivational in what she wrote about it in the beginning, about, just getting off the couch, walking to the front door, next day getting off the couch, going to the end of the garden path, the next day maybe going half a block, etc. Because if you haven't exercised in a while and you've been ridden with pain and stiffness, it's very hard to start, and you have to start really slowly. So Jenna, she calls herself, was really motivational in how she got people involved in this Walk Your A.S. just to start moving. Walk Your A.S. has evolved over the years. In the first few years, it was quite a lengthy process. It was, I think, from January the 1st to March the 31st, it was a 3-month walk. And you walked anywhere, anytime you liked. You just had to submit your steps to Walk Your A.S. off. And the steps were counted up. Originally, I think the idea was to see if we could all walk around the world. We surpassed that in the first year or two. So then it was walking to the moon and back, and that was surpassed the year it was introduced. Wow. And then we went for Mars, and we're only a fraction of the way to Mars at this stage, despite having been walking for years. The whole idea behind it is a motivation to get people moving and to be part of the community. It has evolved a lot. Walk Your A.S. off never really got any funding, so it was always done on a shoestring. And eventually they sort of gave up, and they asked if somebody else could take it over. And the Spondylitis Association of America stepped forward and said they would take it over. It's now become a year-long event, so it's not a special walk for a month or a week or anything. It's a year-long event. It's also a fundraiser. It's mainly a fundraiser now, which wasn't the case in the early days. You had the opportunity to do fundraising, but that wasn't the prime emphasis. The prime emphasis now under SAA seems to be fundraising rather than walking. So it's changed a lot over the time. But as I say, originally I was the #1 fan of it. And I just think it's a fantastic way to get involved and start moving.
Yeah, I agree. Great. That was AxSpA patient advocate Michael Mallinson. Tune into our upcoming episodes as we continue our conversation with Michael on patient education and advocacy. We'll cover things like essential advice for those feeling dismissed by their primary care physicians, as well as mental health support for AS patients, gender differences in the condition, and the unique obstacles women face in obtaining a diagnosis and getting treatment. Thank you for listening. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with others. It helps support the channel. Don't forget to subscribe and get notifications for updates and informational videos about axial spondyloarthritis or ankylosing spondylitis. And leave a comment. We would love to hear from you. Thank you.